again, in biophysics, I looked at like protein structures and energy levels. At the end of the day, it's applying physics to biology. I got the same questions even then. Like, wait, it's
Right.
biology or physics?
Right.
It's what I do as a physicist, and I approach it different than the biologists. It's just a physics way of seeing it. Same thing with options and finance. Same thing with, I'm sure, how I approach my company, which is kind of options on crypto, digital assets. We do produce research. I do it the same way I would study any field of physics. So it's mostly there's no recipe for being a physicist. Again, it's just you have some mindset, you have some approach. Applied to biology, to high energy physics, to finance, same math, same approach. So yeah, I would say that same thing with my people are close to me and say, yeah, well, physics, now this, it's the same. You're the same person. You're just applying your skills to a different set.
In this episode, I interview Guillaume Lambert, a former professor of physics at Cornell University, turned crypto entrepreneur. He shares his background in academia and his transition to blockchains and finance. We get into how exactly he got involved into this space and when he decided to create his own company, Panoptic. We discuss the challenges and opportunities in the crypto space, such as the potential to democratize access to financial tools. Given his unique background in this space, he provides a refreshing perspective on the current state and future of decentralized finance. Okay, hi Guillaume, welcome to this episode of the podcast. Very excited to have you here today. So for reference, Guillaume and I met at a crypto conference called The Latest in DeFi Research. And I think at that conference you presented your Panoptic protocol, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe, so let me give some more context before. So Guillaume, at least when I met him there, I learned that he was a professor of physics at Cornell, and he was also creating a crypto company. And I was just like, what? This is crazy. I need to learn more from this guy and understand how this happened. And that's what brought us to the podcast today. So maybe tell us a little bit about your company first.
Yeah, sure. And again, I'm Guillaume Lambert. I creating a crypto company. So again, very different from academia, but we're creating a company that does options on the blockchain. So I'm a physicist by training, and physicists and engineers generally like options because it's very mathematical. It's not playing the casino, but rather like managing risk. And then if you have the math background, it's much easier to understand than something a little bit more risky. So that was what brought me to this field in traditional finance. I was able to find ways to make it work on the blockchain, and that's my company. And it turns out, I'm no longer in academia. So again, I was at Cornell for close to 6 years, and again, I had a choice of staying in academia or doing this crazy thing about crypto. So again, July last year was my last official day at Cornell, and I'm doing this full time, building my company Panoptic.
I don't know where to start asking you questions about this. Maybe first question, why? Why did you decide to leave this path that you were on to take this big risk and not just leave academia after being an assistant professor? I mean, assistant professor at Cornell, I think you're going to do well somewhere, you know? You have a good chance of getting tenure somewhere. And you just decided to stop that and not just start a job somewhere else, but create your own company. Like, what was that decision-making process like?
Yeah. So, I mean, the when I told my colleagues at Cornell and all of even my students, they were like, what? Looking at me like I had two heads.
Yeah.
It's a different path for sure. But I think it comes back to like what I like doing in my PhD and my even postdocs is like doing research, being in the lab. I was an experimental physicist. I did some research in kind of low temperature physics in undergrad, but mostly biophysics. And I was just kind of, again, did my PhD at Princeton, but I was in Bob Austin's lab doing crazy stuff, having fun till the late hours of the night. And that was kind of, oh yeah, I like it. I'm in my element. And the more you graduate, you manage students. And by the time you're an assistant professor, I had no time to spend in the lab. And that was kind of a different pace. I would actually go back after dinner to do experiments or fix stuff just to be present. But I felt like the more I went through it, the more it was like a different thing that I signed up for, I guess. So it was either doing a similar thing at, as you say, different institution. I'm sure I could have found a new place. I live in Boston now as well, so I could have found something here, but it's just, I wanted to be still in the midst of all that happened. So again, in my company, I still do research, still code, still is, I'm very, very close to the action. And that's a little bit what I felt. Again, the prospect of staying my whole career at the same place with job security did not entice me that much. I guess, again, my those that are in the element, it allows you to be a bit more freedom, but I like that dynamics of change. I may do this for a few years as well. Take this as far as I can. And again, I'm not tied to any specific path.
I guess you say that, you kind of remind me of the fact that at least in these experimental fields, especially when the more you become a professor, the more you become a manager, then you sort of disconnect from the actual day-to-day, which it seems like what you are saying that you like. But in search for this, day-to-day problem-solving type thing, how did you land on crypto?
Oh, yeah. So that's another journey, but like many things over the past decade, COVID had a lot of play to it. So again, I was professor. I'm always at the forefront of technology, whether it's a new microscope, a new imaging system. I had always tried to be at the forefront. So all pieces of technology I was kind of keeping up with. And so blockchain and Ethereum was very interesting to me. Like Bitcoin a bit less. It's yes, digital gold, but there's not much. But then Ethereum, which is kind of this smart contract Turing complete machine, is very, very exciting. So I was kind of playing and doing stuff on the blockchain without kind of doing it too seriously. But yes, when COVID was there, had a little bit more time. My lab was shut down, so there was not much to do. So yeah, time to play Uniswap, and Uniswap V2 and V3 were launched. I was kind of very eager to try it out. And again, the discovery process was, I was trying out different protocols, and with Uniswap, I realized, okay, this is very cool. There's a lot of meat to it. Let me just explore this. When you lose money, that's a good motivator of saying, okay, how can I stop that? So the same thing happened, just more broadly trying to understand Uniswap V3. It's a different way of trading. You cannot do this in traditional finance, so that's kind of a unique aspect to it. But yeah, just to the research summer project, I guess, in 2021, how do I understand Uniswap? I discovered more or less that, oh, this looks a little bit like an options protocol. So again, I was trading options in TradFi, very, very, I made the link, but it was like, okay, it's like options. The more I wrote, the more I researched, the more I saw, okay, this is very interesting. Maybe there's something to it. So again, by the time I got to 2022, 2023, I was like, okay, academia or this potentially new exciting way of doing finance that's kind of DeFi and decentralized, it looked more and more attractive. So it seemed very sudden, but then it was kind of growth. It's like people have a career refocus maybe once in a while. You were to do some type of research or do something else. You have so that's a similar thing, I guess. Even though it seems weird that I'm doing this as a crypto company, it's still very research based, at least in the way I approach this.
Right. I guess when you were learning about this, there's so much good and bad about crypto on the internet, and especially the news. If you just focus on the news, you might just hear all the bad. But how did you come across the good part? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's when you use it. So like everything, most of the prejudice or not understanding is just by not seeing it, or at least not using it, or like not making the effort of understanding it. There is definitely bad actors and bad sides to every story. So in crypto, it's no different, because it's also money involved and highly speculative. You have a lot more of these kind of shady actors that are attracted to it. But the real core, kind of the principles behind the whole blockchain, some of the protocols like Uniswap, and those that have lasted the test of time, is kind of very encouraging. Again, it's not it's a new way of doing finance. It's like more accessible. I can trade and do financial activities that someone needs $10 million in their account to actually do the same thing. So you can do it at any scale. And the accessibility, even though it seems risky, it's very secure. It's like cryptographically secured. So you can be sure you won't get your account closed. So there is definitely advantages to it. And it's more almost like on a medium to long term outlook that you have to look, not necessarily what's in front of you, but what the whole thing could bring in. And the internet changed all aspects of our lives. There's bad stuff on the internet, good stuff, but the good will win out at the end. And it's the same thing with crypto. It's just more efficient, better, more secure, and more transparent. There's like the advantages do outweigh the potential risk for sure.
Who taught you about options trading? Or how did you stumble upon this?
Yeah, I don't, mostly on my own. Again, I knew about again, same thing with you see something once, you don't care. See it a few more times, you start to like, okay, maybe. Same thing with me. When you're a retailer or a user that first learns about option, you learn about like GameStop and meme stocks and buying calls and buying this and buying this. And it's one aspect. This is very speculative. You can make 100x or you can lose. You can do one trade that wins 100x, or you do 1,000 trades that lose you 1 cent. So it balances it. So it's less interesting. But I don't know why, but I thought that the sell side of options, you can buy options, and this is what most people think about. But selling options, it's a bit more risky. It's a bit more involved. The risk management is a different thing. You don't set it and forget it. You have to balance it. So it's just a slightly more interesting proposition. And I started to read more into it. There's like resources online, like you need YouTube videos or like content. I like Tasty Trade, which is kind of this network that produces like daily content about options, and you learn slowly they focus on the sell side, but selling options. And again, if you're a engineer, physicist, it's all probability. It's all math. You cannot say, I think the price of Tesla is going to be, I don't know, $300 next year. It's not just a binary choice. It's a probability. It is 15% chance of happening, or 25% chance, or 95. So the whole thing is very, very numbers based. It's and those that do it well, they know about the numbers, and they use this to kind of they manage the risk in a way that's extremely conservative. If you think about this, because the other side is this speculative buying. So just over time, you get exposed to it. You go down that rabbit hole, and eventually you come out either, okay, I'm going to try it with real money, or if it's not for you, you don't do it, but that's fine.
Yeah. You know, as you describe this, you remind me that I think especially in the academic circles, when people sort of go into finance and stuff, you know, you're called a sellout or something like that. And I think a lot of, you know, I think when I was in the academic circles, I felt like if you did something like this, the idea of wanting to sort of like making money is seen as a bad thing. And or it's sort of like what you're saying with the, like, oh, I think options is interesting. I think that people like to associate thinking that is interesting as like, oh, I want to make money. That's my goal. But you're saying it's mathematically interesting. And I'm just wondering how to reconcile that with someone who, because I know it seems like if your goal was to make money, you wouldn't have, you know, pursued a PhD in physics and become a assistant professor. So I'm a little trying to put those two pieces together.
Yeah, and I do trade. Yeah, and I do trade with my own account at the retail level, selling options. I cannot live off of it. You don't make a ton of money. There's a difference between 5% or 4% treasury rates and 15-20%, but it's at least on my side, it's still engaging. It's like some type of hobby that's ticking all the boxes. I mean, you can play chess. That's just simulating, to some extent. Options is a similar type of dance. You just rebalance. And same thing with my own like company. I don't do this for the money. I just do this for kind of the impact, the transformative aspect of crypto that's permeated. Like people that are in the field kind of see, oh, you can do lending on chain. That's different than lending in a bank. You can do exchange. That's different than NASDAQ. You can do like, in the case of us, options. So it's just different ways of doing the same thing, but now it's kind of very new and very, very kind of stimulating from even a research point of view. Yeah. And again, those that do want to make money, again, you can start from after high school and say, I'm going to work and not study, but it's like, it's different payoff. at the end of the day, if you do a PhD and you say, yes, I don't want to change the pace, that's right. It's perfectly fine also to go on in finance or at least be a quant somewhere.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to get to that point, but maybe I can get to it now, where you're doing something that's completely different from physics, and you're training in physics. At least this is I'm obviously I don't think so, because I kind of I'm asking from a naive perspective, by the way, because this is what I've been asked. So it's like you're doing something that kind of, some would say, throws away all of your years of training, and someone might say, what was the point of doing a PhD in physics and becoming an assistant professor if you were going to switch into doing this? Do you think you still had value doing the previous path?
Yeah, again, Phil Anderson famously said that physics is whatever physicists do. So I'm still a physicist. I use the same tool. For me, it's no different. Again, in biophysics, I looked at like protein structures and energy levels. At the end of the day, it's applying physics to biology. I got the same questions even then. Like, wait, it's biology or physics?
Right.
It's what I do as a physicist, and I approach it different than the biologists. It's just a physics way of seeing it. Same thing with options and finance. Same thing with, I'm sure, how I approach my company, which is kind of options on crypto, digital assets. We do produce research. I do it the same way I would study any field of physics. So it's mostly there's no recipe for being a physicist. Again, it's just you have some mindset, you have some approach. Applied to biology, to higher energy physics, to finance, same math, same approach. So yeah, I would say that same thing with my people are close to me and say, yeah, well, physics, now this, it's the same. You're the same person. You're just applying your skills to a different set.
Yeah, I really like that. Physics is what physicists do. I haven't heard that before.
Same thing. Yeah. Today, again, Nobel Prize in Physics got out.
Right.
John Hartfield. He was at Princeton, but someone on Twitter said, "Wait, is it physics? I thought it was computer science, like neural networks." No, he's the prototypical physicist trying to do something cool, clever, unique. Expand again now the revolution in AI, but it's all very, very physics based. Even if you think about it, there's energy. There's a lot of terms from physics in machine learning as well.
Can you think about any advantages you've had in thinking about things in this physics way that other people in this space sort of don't have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still a small community, so I'm not the only physicist, or at least people thinking this way, but when you and again, I don't want to, so the same way that in biological physics or biophysics you go to conferences where you meet with biologists, and I'm used to that slightly different point of view from my research. And again, Babasan at Princeton was also very, very like a pioneer in biophysics, and he was also like, yes, biologists do this in a different way, we do it our way, and that's kind of taking ownership. So it's not just kind of using math, but then applying like statistical mechanics, for instance, applying some principles that for gas and molecules could be applied to price action maybe, or to the value of a company. So the same thing, I do this for my research. Again, with options, you have the options on crypto, you have a computer science point of view, you have an economist's point of view, you have like a math and a quant. So I'm just approaching it in a very physics way, which is having some idea of the statistical averages, having some ideas of like the expectation, the way that we say it's not perfect, but it's like adiabatic. There's a few shortcuts. A few shortcuts that physicists take that allows us to go a bit further than just being extremely rigorous from the get-go. So that's what I get.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't get that. It's a really just a good approximation of everything. That's a goal. Like, what does it mean to have an equation or a model? It's really just an approximation of nature at this scale.
And we kind of internalize this as a physicist, because there's different models, different scales. What you do in astrophysics doesn't apply to the molecules. It's still the same world. It's just different ways. So some again, younger folks like undergrads, or at least those that don't have this skill yet, they come in and say, "Oh, wait, I tried to do this very, very precisely," but you have to let go a little bit. And in economy, I would say it's the purest form of randomness. It's the same thing. You cannot expect everyone to be either rational or profit seeking or doing the best decision for themselves. It's all random, but it's fine. You expect this to be unoptimal, and you kind of work with it.
So as you switch from professor to, I guess, founder, CEO, is that what would the title be?
Oh yeah, the founder CEO of our company, yeah, Panoptic.
What were the areas that you felt like sort of the gaps in your ability to create a company that you sort of felt like you weren't prepared for, or things that you learned that you needed to fill?
Yeah, and again, the any founder would tell you like you make all the mistakes possible. If you manage to survive, then you're in a good spot. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that I made all of them possible. I had some management skills, I guess, but then when you talk about like investors that want a return on investment, or you talk about some product or a code that you want to launch, you may want to have it be very good and perfect, the same way you publish the publication that's peer reviewed. Or what I learned is that you have to be okay with kind of working. You upgrade it. People will tell you what works and what doesn't. It's not you that will find the best way. So I would say that it's just kind of, it's a bit more concrete, a little bit more fast paced. You have to change your mind, or not, like if you make a mistake, own it, move to a different direction quick. And it's like, if you're theoretical physicists or even mathematicians, you have to kind of push and push and push, and you may be pushing through. It may take you weeks to realize the wrong way, but you learn something along the way. In business and finance, you don't learn much if you're going too long in the wrong direction. You need to be able to adjust fast and then say, okay, I'll do this other thing instead.
Got it. So I guess when you were going down the assistant professor track, you felt like you were moving away from the core research, and you're seeking out doing the type of nitty-gritty problem-solving stuff. But when you say you're CEO, founder, and as your company starts to scale, I feel like that problem is going to happen again. Am I right or wrong? And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's definitely true. I feel like the startup culture is very, very like small lab size. Like everyone knows everything is going on. I can spend like a few hours a day talking to someone and it's fine. But yes, I'll see. I'll see how I manage. I think I mean, if you're CEO of Apple, it's different than if you're CEO of a company like me. But I guess I know this is coming, so I can actually adapt to it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll still code during the weekends. Who knows?
Maybe you'll create a new company.
No, exactly. So there's I don't know which one exactly, but like company size matters. You don't want to have a company with like 25,000 people in the same building. And there was one company that had like a building with whatever 200 parking spots. And by the time all the spots were taken, you build another building next door to it. So you have kind of this smaller scale without having the whole thing kind of go out of control. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I would say that delegating, being able to kind of manage different tasks will be definitely that thing I need to do. And maybe when I'm in my 50s and 60s, I won't mind about not having to code anymore. So that's a different thing as well.
Right. Yeah. I guess, what do you think separates you from, I would say, 99% of the academics, so probably even more, such that you would, create a company? You don't often see, especially physics people, creating a company.
Yeah.
I think
that's true. I didn't think about it that way. I mean, I'm a sample of one, so I look at myself and say, of course, why would you do anything else? So it makes sense in my head. Yeah, I don't know. I think at the end, maybe many physicists maybe feel this way. You want to make an impact. You want to be able to say, haha, I solved this theory. I'm part of the greats. I'm doing this that can have like a maybe non-financial, less tangible impact. But yes, I actually created something kind of new and unique. And you might find the same mindset in a startup or in a type of kind of company where it's not, okay, I'm going to make the next widget cheaper than everybody else's, but maybe I'm going to create some cool product that will change the world. So it's similar type of motivation, at least for me. That was what drove me a little bit to physics, what's driving me here to continue doing this. I wouldn't start a widget company, but this is cool enough and innovative enough that I feel like I'm still making an impact. And the skills I was able to transfer. I'm sure that if you're again, low temperature physics or nuclear physicist, there's a few things that you can kind of port this to. I'm sure, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but at least my training was broad enough. And then I was in a lab. Now I'm never in a lab, but I feel like I'm still doing the same type of work, which is not necessarily kind of adjusting the focus of a microscope, but doing some like coding tests. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I cannot sit still. Again, as I said, if I were to stay at the same place forever of my career, I'm not sure I was going to be happy, I guess, long term. So maybe that's my mindset, or again, without removing anything for anyone, security is fine. But yeah, I felt like maybe that's what is making me a bit different. I don't know.
What do you think was the transition point mentally, or like a calculation that you did where you were like, I'm ready to make my own company? You know, like, yeah, because you had the idea about options and crypto, and you saw that no one was doing this. No one saw the problem this way. But why not just write a paper and put it on an archive?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. You know,
and that's what I did. So I was writing, like, I didn't have I didn't think it was important enough to make a paper out of it. So I was running like blog articles and kind of Twitter threads.
Right.
And this was my way of saying, hey, this looks very cool. You guys should look at this in this way.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I think I felt like I was still engaged. I was still happy. It's like, I think with papers or publications, you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can get to more of it. But I felt like it was expanding too much. And I did apply for a UNISOF Foundation grant. I think in 2021, or I think I got in 2022, which is, I was going to take a sabbatical from my job, and I said, oh yeah, let me get some money out of this and to study this more. And that was, and I did get it and they were excited about me. And then that made it, okay, yeah, maybe I can make an impact in that field in a way that, again, in academia, you cannot quite do, because it's very, very applied. Again, it wasn't a sudden decision, but I had like, this was very exciting. Same level as my students' research, but I was kind of driving it in a way as well that made it a bit more my own. So yeah, I was like, okay, next step. I did some consulting with a company. They also pushed the idea of like not just researching, but we can raise funds. We can actually make a company out of it. I wasn't exposed to that side of the startup world, which is like, no, you need to incorporate. You need to get backers. You cannot do this for free.
Yeah.
And that was helpful. And I'm sure a lot of people in academia don't know about this side of, okay, yes, you have a great idea, you have a great research outcome. Now commercialization, making it bring to market, is a different story. And then some labs and some labs have like spin-off companies out of their research, and that's a lot of where the new IP comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not something that we get taught, and it might be worthwhile for, even at the PhD level, have some type of like entrepreneurial class. So at least have this be a viable alternative. A lot of people go into PhDs thinking they'll be professors, but a lot of them do something else, and it's probably fine. But then not knowing what you can do is maybe what's hindering a lot of that shift. So, but yeah, again, it's a. If I were to do it tomorrow, it would be more efficient and not make the same mistakes as I maybe did in the past. But it's just a new set of skills. But yeah, you just have to go with it.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if you could sort of expand on what that process was like, because exactly as you said, I don't even know what questions to ask if I were a student, and even like now, if I wanted to create my own company, I had an idea, how would I go about doing it? Yeah, can you expand on that a little bit?
So some field of academia do this a bit better. So biotech, for instance, has seen many examples of PhD students, postdocs spinning off and doing startups. So I did one postdoc in Boston with the Wyss Institute, which is an institute for maybe more commercial applications of biotech research. And again, I worked on a diagnostic test for the Zika virus. This was like in 2015. And we licensed the it didn't go anywhere, but there was a process to license the IP, getting like some people interested in the idea. So that path is definitely something that the some field of academia do well, because they see this. Some people make money, give back to the university. That type of thing is a good return on investment. But yeah, I would say that it's something that I think mentorship and having someone that has gone through the motion could help a lot. And you cannot say to someone, solve this integral formula unless you know about calculus. Same thing, don't start a company unless you know about some of the steps. So again, that overall kind of being like understanding the process, understanding the world, understanding what needs to be asked, what needs to be done, is a skill you need to learn. And again, it's a people do an MBA as well for that specific reason. How can I take what I learned haphazardly on the job to now something that's a little bit more deliberate? But yeah.
Did you go to any books or YouTube videos or podcasts to figure this out?
No. And I got a book as well about like how to scale people.
Yeah.
And
I've heard of that, yeah.
It's still in it wrapped. So I didn't even open it.
Okay.
And every once in a while my wife makes fun of me because I should perhaps read it, but no. And I recently moved, so I don't even know where that book is. But that's why it's again, I'm at a scale where it's very, very like I know pretty much everything that happens, and it's very, very easy to manage. But by the time I get to like dozens, if not hundreds of employees, like again, you work at Uniswap. This started very, very small, few people. Now it's actually I don't know how many employees do you have at Uniswap?
I think the last time I asked, which was last week, it was about 130.
Yeah, and this is still small for like many companies standard, but for crypto, it's like one of the biggest one.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's going to be books written by those that went through that process to help other like crypto / Web3 founders to go through it. But yeah.
What would you advise a PhD student at the end of their PhD? You know, what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, so the easy route is to do like postdocs and maybe one postdoc, two postdocs. I went through there. I did 3 postdocs, but then I did like the regular like path. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people like in their 7th year of a postdoc, like not really like wanting to do this.
Yeah.
Just explore. I think the mental efforts you've done over the past few years as a PhD student was probably like the most intense, like from a mental point of view, like time you'll have. You could have a more different type of experience, maybe more exciting, just different in industry. That's fine. In the startup world, that's fine. Could be in a regular job and you have other things to do. But I guess the not the mistake, but a lot of what I've seen people go through is, okay, I did undergrad, let's do PhD, maybe now postdoc, maybe I'll see. And then it's hard to pierce that kind of the mental model you're in. So I mean, you're the smartest, more educated, better like equipped to tackle any problems in the world. So you should not limit yourself to what you think is the best, but just explore. Again, people are still young by the time they leave their PhD, but yeah.
I guess that also makes me wonder why did you pursue a PhD?
Oh yeah, I did some research in undergrad and I had a blast.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, last year was like most of my time was in the lab, not even studying. So I liked it so much that I said, yes, let me do a PhD. Like this is going to be like full time. I took 1 class, 2 classes at Princeton because I was obligated to, but I the whole time I was doing research. So it's just kind of the research component brought me to it, and I was able to do it full time. Same with my postdoc. Hey, not even any teaching, nothing else, just research full time. Right. And I had again a blast. I was happy to be like somewhat lucky with my projects and getting a job at Cornell. But yeah, maybe not being in the lab made it a bit less fun. I don't know.
Okay. I guess if we rewind a little bit more to be when you were in high school and you were trying to pick what to do. Like what was, and at least in that stage, what was your thought process? Why did you pick this path? Oh, why did you decide to do physics at that stage, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, so again, my dad was a farmer, so I come from a very, very humble beginning. Like my dad didn't finish high school, but that's because he skipped 2 grades, and he was like tried to go to like college, but he was too young, like at whatever 17, and then dropped off. But like he was smart, but then it didn't work out for him. But overall, I was happy, like working during the summers, like overall came in with very hands-on, like always busy type of mindset. And yeah, I liked school. I was able to like form well in math and physics, and I just, yeah, why not let me go to college and do this? And I applied to one college, and then it's in Canada, it's a bit different, I guess, but just one college I got in, and I didn't do any extra stressing out about it. It was like, okay, let's do it. Seems fun. And again, my parents, they say now they like, it's way beyond their expectations, but like by the time I got out of college, they were, yeah, all right, we're so proud of you, you made it. So everything else is gravy. I don't have to like, no more pressure. Like it's like very, very fun. And yeah, so overall it's just, I didn't feel the stress, I didn't feel the pressure, so it allowed me to be a lot more kind of free in what I wanted to do. And then my brother, I have 3 older brothers as well, but the one just above me is physicist as well, and we got along, and that might be like we were co-motivating one another. But yeah, so I don't know, it was kind of a natural. I wouldn't go chemistry, and back then I hated biology, even though I ended up doing research in biophysics. But it's just, yeah, seems it's very cool. Maybe again back to the impact. It's like you come from a small town. There's not much to do. You learn about relativity and astrophysics and black holes, and like I was whatever as a kid, I would like, my friends didn't care, but I would like talk about this all night, and then they were like, yeah, shut up. At least though, my brother, we talked about this. My dad as well, we did talk about it a lot. He was like interested, like talk about stars, all of this. So at the end of the day, going through what you like to do the most, and for me just studying. The lab came in and said, wait, I was playing around on my dad's farm doing whatever. I can do this in the lab full time. I get paid. And then, so that's kind of the looping back, like what made me kind of very happy about like the whole grad student life.
Yeah. But I think especially as you said, your dad was a farmer. Why, when you were picking what to do in college, why did you not think about something more practical? Like, why didn't you pick a degree that was lead more naturally to a job? Because at that stage you didn't know much about research, right? So
yeah, I knew a little bit, but yeah, it's true. I don't know. Again, maybe it's the pressure of not being the firstborn.
Yeah.
So my older brother did take over the farm and kind of made it 10 times bigger, and also entrepreneurial in his own way for his own, like the dairy cows that we're doing. Yeah, I don't know. I think no pressure. Again, my parents never tried to push me in any way, and I felt like I didn't need to choose anything serious to provide. So I don't know. It's a very, like, now I think about it, I could have landed in a totally different direction, but I feel like I kind of made the best of everything.
If you could pick something else now, what would you pick?
As a high schooler, you mean?
Yeah. Oh, I guess there are multiple stages I can ask that question, but I think mainly after, like, what to study after high school, and then what you should do after your undergrad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I have no regrets, but yeah, I think it's I got a good path. And now if I were to put in the same shoes, I don't know what would excite me. Again, that it's like long-term type of, wow, the universe, the whole financial world. This is what I'm trying to solve, right? That's why I'm creating a company. It's not something you say, okay, I'm going to do a technical degree in so and so. So it's a very different maybe question. I don't know. I mean, work and what I do is very, very much involved in like maybe my own identity. Some people may say, okay, I'm going to do work and travel, have hobbies, do something, maybe exercise, all of the things I don't have time to do, and you get fulfillment this way. But yeah, at least if I wanted to be still fulfilled from a professional side, we'll put it. Again, my wife is a doctor, and I know I would not be able to do this for 1 second. Anything that involves like stress and blood in people's lives, I wouldn't be able to manage. So at least I know this. But yeah, I mean, yeah, some people say, their parents say, yeah, you should do engineering or medical degree, and medical school. It's like they choose for you. Yeah, at least I know I would not have been a good doctor, but I don't know.
I guess this also makes me think, as you're talking about, as you picked physics, all the astrophysics in the universe. I mean, exactly the same reasons why I went into it, but it's sort of, it feels like one of those things where when you're looking forward, I should sort of pursue the thing that's most interesting and sort of, yeah, I don't know. It seems like you should pursue the thing that's most interesting. At least that seems like what you and I did. But looking back, it's like, oh, now you've acquired all these skills that make you very well positioned to, see the some aspects of the financial world in a certain way. But let's say I was someone who were like listening to this podcast and hearing about this, cool professor who took his physics knowledge and created this options protocol on crypto, and it's like, I want to do that, but like you can't just pursue that, you can't just get there directly. How do you like advise someone to do something similar?
Yeah, and maybe now that it seems very, very a big mountain to climb, but I feel like I may have more in common with like artists than maybe what people think as a like maybe engineer or something that's very rational. If you're an artist, you do the painting you want, you do the sculpture you want, you do the whatever digital art you want. You drive your own narrative, or you're a songwriter. You write the song you want to hear, not the one that you think will have the most value. So it might be a similar thing. You just build on the body of knowledge, experience. You try to kind of be true to yourself, but at the end of the day, why would someone bring up, like, end up with some sculpture that's extremely like intricate? They went through a process. It's not from day one that they got to that point. So it's a similar thing here. I wouldn't say that it's performative art what I do, but it feels like it's a process. It's not the process is maybe more important than the actual steps.
The outcome.
Yeah, the outcome. It's like I got there through a process that made it so that I was equipped with it. And if I would say I want to study crypto DeFi protocols in undergrad, there's nothing that will get you there. Even if you take a class, it's like it's a long process. So again, I would say that there's different types of like minds, but at least if you're in this realm of I want to do something big, I want to do something that's like impactful, it's like almost like art. A little bit less like I want to build the biggest rocket, biggest bridge, biggest something. It's very, very concrete. So I'm sure the steps are different. But yeah, something that's a little bit more open-ended allows you to be a bit more kind of creative, maybe.
Yeah, but I guess how should, think about a high school version of you. What should they be thinking of? What is the guiding question that they should be asking to determine what should I do next? In their career. Yeah. And
again, with it may not work for everyone, but it's like if you have two options, I found that if you have two decisions to make, more often than not, the safest one may not be the best one. There's always like, without saying I'm gonna be gambling away my money, but if there's something that like seems exciting but you're not sure, like that's a good mindset to have. Not try to settle down, not try to kind of make it so that, oh yes, I do this and then it's easy from there. No, I do this and it's gonna be harder, but that's fine. That's the goal. So again, the maybe as someone that is growing and getting to learn themselves, I would say that taking some risk, taking some uncertainty, like making sure that you have something that challenges you can get you much further than trying to be complacent and just going with the flow. So it could be from research standpoint, could be from like the stuff you study or what you do in your own time, but just try to be challenged. Just try to take the path that seems a bit more difficult, but the reward will be much higher, I guess. Like very inspirational, but that's kind of the idea.
I guess, especially since you have a kid also, in this, when with AI getting more popular and getting better, and I guess seeing your transition from physics to creating your own company in a completely different space, what do you think are the skills that someone younger should be focusing on? Like, what do you think about your kids? Should I teach them to code still, or should I just teach them how to think and then they can talk to
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, my son is turning 4 next week.
Yeah.
And I have a 1-year-old daughter as well. So both of them will probably have a very different world that they brought into.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it's going back to that process thing. It's not necessarily learning how to code, but learning how to be adaptable, learning how to be kind of asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, LLMs, it's like the revolution will be massive, but maybe not in the ways that most people think, I believe. So again, my back to my roots, my great-grandfather had 1 horse and 2 cows. And then back to my grandfather, he had 1 tractor. Oh, he could get 4 horses and whatever, 8 cows. And then my dad, so it's transforming, making it more efficient. You still like harvest the same fields, but it's just more efficient. It's not going to be a robot taking care of the farm. It's still going to be a human driving it, but they'll have like an army of helpers and like more efficient ways. So it's the same thing with the new world. Could be AI, could be something else, but at the end, it's just kind of using the tools, using what's in front of you, being able to kind of think about, be able to think is probably way more important than being able to like act to do something. I guess very, very narrow.
Mm-hmm. How do you hone that ability to think?
I mean, so every day again. At my company, there's always problems, always new things. You talk to market makers that are handling hundreds of millions of dollars one day. You talk to a small user that wants to use your interface the next day, or you talk to an investor. So it's you have to be in an environment that you feel stimulated all the time. Because you need that fulfillment. So whether it's at work or something else, I think you need it. So if your job is not as exciting, make sure you find something elsewhere. And it's not necessarily like reading Twitter or Reddit or TikTok. It's like trying to seek out new things. And reading books is great too. It's much more involved, but yeah, the experience, what do you do outside, like you can do is also very important.
Mm-hmm. I guess as we were talking about skill sets, I was wondering if now that you're in this crypto space, which is I would say pretty broad space, what type of skill sets do you think there's a need for, at least in the space that you work in? I don't know if that's like the DeFi, basically not the centralized people, maybe even in the centralized, but is there like a group of people or a type of skill set that you wish existed more, and you're like, oh, there's actually a larger opportunity for X type of person to...
Yeah. So again, researchers or people that are kind of at the forefront of any new things are very important. I still do research and applied like my research skills to could be price action, could be blockchain data, but it's something that people can do. And a lot of the people come in with a computer science background, some math, not many physicists, but the key one is that you have to have a slightly more quantitative, slightly more kind of some ability to understand data is very important. And maybe maybe that's also where sometimes I feel like my skills make me a different kind of user builder than some other people. A lot of what we see is that the blockchain has some limitations. It has some trade-offs. It's never optimal. And some people try to improve maybe the system and say, no, we're going to solve this and this at the core level. We're going to make gravity less so everybody will jump higher type of thing. And it's there's going to be a different trade-off that's going to pop up. So I feel like, at least on my view, I a bit more thing is that you study nature. You cannot say, yes, gravity will be lowered so that I can do experiment. You work with it. Same thing with a lot of what I see in some approaches. Oh, this doesn't seem to work, so I'm going to create something that will make it work. But you just have to kind of go with the flow, work with the constraints, make sure that, yes, maybe it's less efficient, different type of conditions, but if you embrace them a bit more and try not to change the world, but rather change how you approach it, it's also a good way. So in economy, in even computer science, you can change all of this. You can change the specs, you can change the rates, you can change something. So you have some control. But at least I know from my physics background, you cannot change anything. If you say this doesn't work, fixed, nature does this. So I at least come with this mindset of, let's build something with the constraints that works within those constraints. maybe think outside of the box as to how to get there, but then not necessarily touch the box itself.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Right. I like that perspective. I think people don't think about basically when you think about physics, at least some areas you're like, oh, what are the constraints? What are the properties of those constraints? And then what can I do in that constraint? And somehow when I entered this crypto space, I'm like, there's no talk about, what are the underlying properties, and you just try something, and if it breaks, then you learn it didn't work. And if it doesn't break, then you move forward, which was very unsettling for me.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I do feel exactly the same way. I feel like I mean, that's right. Coming in through experience, through kind of the process of like, what am I looking at? And no, I cannot change this or this parameter, but yeah, given that it's true, what can I do with it? That's maybe less. So again, back to the blockchain, I don't know how well versed, but there's like some wars every once in a while about should we do this or this to make the blockchain better. Could be Bitcoin block size, could be block times, could be something else. So there's always some trade-off, and because it's humans behind it, you can change those.
Right.
Again, and people have known, okay, yeah, I can change. I want this 2 other arguments, and the protocol went my way, so I'll keep going.
Yeah.
But yes, as in nature, there's no winning.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you learn to respect whatever system you're working with.
Right. That's a nice way of putting it. I noticed that only recently I try to stay off Twitter, but I saw that you post some of your views and like, I don't know, I wouldn't say like light research, yeah. And it's, I guess, one reason, especially why I try to stay off of this crypto Twitter, is that I have noticed that there's a lot of kind of like bad research that goes on. And I was wondering what your view on that is. And it's, so my colleague Shin, when we go through some of these posts, I tell him that I think a lot of people don't understand the scientific method and how you come up with scientific truth. And he was like, you should ask Guillaume what the scientific method is. And have you felt like people don't follow this on these Twitter things? Basically, they have an idea and they set out to prove it. And
maybe the reverse way. Yes, you don't have a hypothesis, but you set out to prove what you have in mind.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I would say that the field, maybe, I mean, some fields like, again, chemistry, physics, biology to some extent, is very, very easy to go through that loop.
Yeah.
Because they have some feedback. Okay.
Yeah.
This chemical did not create what I thought. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
In economy and other type of research, it's just kind of human beings. It's not clear as much. There's definitely a lot of math involved. There's definitely a lot of like quantitative research. And this, I would say, like, math doesn't lie to some extent, but the way that maybe you look at data, apply your theories to it, made it so that it's never clear. I would say, at least the research I'm doing is a little bit less rigorous, because it's not something I want to put on a paper, but rather kind of try to use this as somewhat educate. I'm trying to be transparent, at least with what we do. A lot of our research, we publish the code, we publish the data as well, that people can review it.
Yeah.
And so, I would say that maybe he thinks that I'm not as rigorous as I should be, but at the end of the day,
I've only read one of your posts. I saw like the thing about the 5 bips, 10. Basically, you see some data and you make some comment and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fine. Those are very like observational facts and type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to like the narrative shifts, the narrative goes to different places. I'm trying to add my own view. This one didn't get to people screaming at me, so that's fine. But I feel like the community to some extent does a good job, or at least tries to engage.
Yeah.
So at least that's good. Yeah, the one I was like I don't want to go too deep, but the price across different markets could have discrepancies. So overall, it's just kind of a good way to visualize this. And in DeFi, in crypto, all the data is available. It's all transparent. Yeah. You can get all of it if you want. And if you want to do the same thing in traditional finance, you have to pay, you have to be onboarded. There's like, it's not as accessible. So at least the richness of the data is very, very big in that sense.
Yeah, but do you ever find that maybe the space, at least I'd say one difficulty I have is that there's a lot of people who do confirmation bias type of research, and it's hard to. One reason why I don't really try to engage is because it's just not worth pointing out confirmation bias. And you seem to be more engaged in Twitter, and like, how do you deal with that? Is it one of those things where you said you don't try to change the world around you, but you approach it differently? And you just accept? Yeah.
As you say, I try to be a bit more descriptive. The feedback is a bit different because it's mostly tackling, like, maybe again, how is the blockchain working? How is this going? Is this really this phenomenon or this phenomenon? Like almost semantic type of thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's fine to argue this way, but if the outcome is let's change or implement this and this change to the protocol, then it's a different way. But yeah, at least I'm trying to still bring some of my tools that I've learned and apply this to, again, finance and options pricing. And again, I do have a bias because I think my company and my view of some of these problems is options based, or at least something that I have experience with. Some people have a different point of view, and it's fine. But ultimately, it's like because it's economy as well. You cannot say, "Oh, my phone is better than the iPhone." No,
right.
iPhone sold like millions, and people can use it. It's the use cases and how much traction it gets that gives you the right to say it's true or not to some extent. Right. Same thing with some of those approaches. Yes, maybe this or this happens. Ultimately, we'll see from the economically different actors will definitely get to the point much faster than people can argue about it on Twitter.
Yeah. I guess as you say, use cases, you speaking to crypto people, it's run away from the term use case. But I wonder, in a field where, this whole use case thing, people are like, crypto still hasn't had good use cases. And how do you feel about that and committing to building a company around this ecosystem that I guess I'm not sure has solidified its place in
yeah. I mean, I think again, if people always compare this to the internet, but
right
in the 80s and 90s you had some very, very primitive, simple internet interactions,
right,
and it's cool. I think people back then saw the potential, and those that kept working saw it in a way that those that kind of came back in 10 or 5 years later kind of now realize. Same thing with the blockchain. I think the foundations are strong. It's a very cool piece of technology, natural extension of like peer-to-peer internet, but now applied to finance. The reason why it's like getting there, it's trying to replace a quadrillion dollar economy.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen overnight, and it may not even happen ever. It's still going to be a different parallel track, I feel.
Yeah,
that all of the on-chain transparent DeFi activity will be specific to internet native transactions. What you have, the stock market, your IRA account, all of this will be maybe more on the traditional side.
Right.
But it's like, the Linux to Windows, at some point, each one will have their own use case.
Yeah.
Before you know it, have the phones run Linux, and then but all the desktops are the Mac or PC. So it's just a different application.
Right. What do you want to see from the whole ecosystem in the next couple of years?
I think a bit less speculation, maybe more serious applications.
Okay.
Less copycats, less forks. A lot of what happens, it's all open source.
Yeah.
And you can see it, and you can copy it, and you can kind of co-opt it and say, "This is me." It's good for growth, but a lot of the new things that come out are repackaged older stuff. So I don't think this should be like the way we approach this. To some extent, like at some point, it's gonna the curve's gonna plateau, and there's not gonna be much more to do. And making copies again won't get new traction. But I feel like the core problems maybe aren't quite solved yet. And it's not by having like a copy of a different application that will change the state, but rather trying to come up with different and new innovations to solve them. But yeah, back to the original question, I'd say that more innovation, less repackaging.
What do you think some of the core problems are right now? I don't know, maybe if I'm going in too much crypto, but I realize that I think people would appreciate your perspective on these topics also.
Yeah,
Even
yeah, yeah.
someone who doesn't care about crypto could.
I mean,
could
I think
learn something
what
interesting.
drives me still now is
Yeah.
openness, access to finance, like making sure that you can be having a seat at the table without being a millionaire is very important to me. I had to almost lie on my traditional brokerage account to say, yes, I can trade options because I have 10 years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
People, I'm 25 years old, 15-year-olds say they have 10 years of experience. So the access, the fact that anyone can trade, anyone can do financial activity that can potentially save lives and kind of secure funds is very, very driving principle for me. So that more of this is definitely better. So in the sense, we need more of these high net worth strategies should be democratized. So options trading, of course, people may know about this, but you can use this to kind of manage risk. You can lose less money. You can use this as a way to be a bit more safe with your investment, even though it seems that it's very speculative. There's a way to package this so that you don't have to be a bank or hedge fund to tap into this kind of side of the finance. You can do this on chain at a small size is very, very important. So I guess just democratizing access to different financial primitives, democratizing access to kind of exchanges, how we can tap into kind of different markets is still what we have to do. And there's a lot of different layers. And if you go very, very down to the level, is like how quick should your blocks be? How decentralized can you be? Most users don't care as much. As long as they get transaction that's confirmed, that's fine. But yeah, I would say that the options world is one thing that should be kind of maybe transitioned to the blockchain made available more broadly. I mean, you have like even stuff I don't know about that people can use to kind of hedge risk, be able to kind of extract some level of financial activity should be made more available. But yeah, I would say that I follow a little bit, but I don't think making the whole thing more performant is what's stopping adoption and innovation. Like, yes, you can have a gigabit internet, but if you're only looking at text-based web pages, you won't notice.
That's a good point.
So you want to have, of course, security, and you want to make sure that it's like the cryptographic nature of blockchain makes it very secure and kind of final. When you say I do this, it's true. The performance is not as important, but yes. I would say that, I don't know if I'm going around, but that's kind of the idea.
No, that's good. That's good. I guess that actually leads me to a direction I wasn't really thinking of, but sort of like talking more about crypto from your perspective. And one thing that was surprising to me, and I think even some of my friends in PhD program and did a postdoc, and I'm like, guys, like, just stop doing this postdoc. That's going to lead nowhere. and come and join crypto. There's like so many cool stuff going on. And they're like, oh, it's very skeptical. I guess it's this whole legal part that we didn't talk about. But one thing that was super surprising to me was that, or maybe because I was in that physics bubble, was that there's so many academics working on crypto from a very serious standpoint. And I was wondering if you can like share your, did you have a similar view on that? Maybe you can talk a little bit more on all the academics, because I mean, Cornell, I think, has a pretty prominent presence in crypto also from the academic standpoint.
And I mean, there's definitely like the business, the kind of business school style, like, okay, this is the new frontier. This is kind of what the next 25 years of finance will look like. So as an economist, as a researcher, you want to kind of get and understand that process. Mm-hmm. And I do see this as well. I do meet a lot of physicists as well. So a few of someone, again, did a postdoc with my good friend. He's now a professor, I guess, in Holland. But we chat every once in a while on Discord about like research content. So again, same thing. A lot of the cool stuff. So yeah, that person, one of his undergrads said, yes, I want to work on DeFi. He said, what? So the older professors don't know. It's the young kids that see, I guess, where a lot of it is going. So he has like a couple of preprints, and again, he's working on this on his like research, summertime research, I guess. But it's the that you maybe going back. It's like it's inevitable. If people want to study it, that doesn't even make it more legitimate or not. It's just kind of, this is the cool thing for them. They don't care if it's tied to some scammy crypto extractive value. They just care about how cool it is and what it can do.
Yeah.
So that too on its own makes it, again, definitely more legitimate than what people portray it to be.
Yeah.
But again, physicists, economists, mathematicians, they can apply, I mean, computer scientists, of course, but they can apply all their research and easily break through. It's not as if it's like super complex yet. So they can still kind of bring in their own perspective and still kind of make a lot of leeway.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit still, hopefully, to be picked rather than trying to work on the hardest problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think but again, if you're interested in the field, again, for me, I was using blockchain. I was using the protocols and I said, this is cool.
Right.
Oh, wait, I lost money. Let me understand why. So this is a good motivator. So not just kind of chasing the next trend, but rather like, are you genuinely interested in saying, in that case, finance is very interesting as a research topic. Same way that biology can be, or physics, or anything. Like if you find like something interesting, might as well use your skills to study it a bit more rigorously.
I guess I have two more questions. If you're talking about people copying less and doing sort of more, I would say maybe more unique work and substantial, and I was wondering if now that you've been in the space longer, you've probably seen more gaps. I don't know if you want to say this, but I was going to ask, if you could create another company, what would it be?
In the crypto space?
Yeah. I guess.
In anywhere.
Maybe answer both of those questions for me.
Okay.
So I didn't know you had a thought about anywhere.
No. Yeah. So again, my wife is a doctor. She's a cardiologist.
Yeah.
And every night she has to read between 5 and 10 EKGs. And she reads them because her fellow and resident and kind of people read it first and they have to reread it, confirm. So again, there should be an AI or some type of AI level pre-processing of that medical data. A doctor still looks at it, but then they do the job of a resident very quickly. So same way you have an X-ray to look inside the body of someone, see if their bone is broken.
Yeah.
A lot of what LLM and kind of AI could do is help with the diagnostic. Not do the diagnostic for yourself, but help it. So anything, again, very closely related because my wife has to do this every night and she hates it. So that's one thing. Can you make it simpler for, you're supposed to be well rested for your next day, like at work. So yeah, can you do something that helps in that front? But yeah, maybe in crypto, I don't know. In crypto, I think it's maybe the way I see it, and this is maybe giving me my company's pitch a little bit, but in crypto, you have traditional finance analogs that try to do what finance has done over the past 100 years. The stock market is like Uniswap a little bit. You can exchange assets, exchange token, buy and sell them. That's Uniswap. You can do some type of fixed yield, which is like treasury bonds. In the TradFi now it's staking and restaking. You secure the network, you get paid. This is like a bond. There's also capital markets, which is lending and borrowing. You can get a mortgage or you can buy meme coins on leverage with this capital market. And I'd say that these three pillars are well established. There's many actors in each kind of subfield, like exchange, yield, and capital markets. What's missing is options or derivatives or hedging. And you have some derivatives which are directional. Options allow you to be a lot more strategic. And this is what maybe Panoptic does. But we can now hedge your exposure. You can actually create structured products or instruments that are huge in TradFi, not quite gotten the traction in DeFi because it's a tough system to implement. So again, trying to see what works in DeFi, what works in traditional finance, applying to DeFi with still the same kind of values of openness, democratization, making sure that everyone can access is kind of the way to go. And if I look at these three, like four now, you have hedging, yield, exchange, capital markets. I don't know what else you get to a point where you get to these very, very complex financial instruments, but anyone that is kind of dealing with a mortgage and our account and some type of like investment that's kind of bonds based, now options is another thing that they can do as well on chain.
Okay, and then to wrap up, what where do you see like the long-term path of Panoptic and the success and its sort of like, what's your vision for it? I don't, just curious. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the at least when you start to learn about options and kind of from a math point of view, they're great, but it's also like it's a Fourier transform. If you know about math, you can do everything with it. You can combine options to create any payoff you want. It's like, as long as you understand the process, you can kind of build anything. It could be a future or derivatives that's very linear in payoff, and that's one way. Or you can create something that has some protection. You can create something that is kind of bidirectional, but any shape you can think of, meaning if the price goes up one way, is the value going up down, you can replicate using options. So again, I'd say that the end state is that Panoptic, or an options protocol, can now capture these three other pillars if you want. You have exchange. You can create something that looks like an exchange using options. You can create yield as well using options. You can create capital markets lending using options. So it's similar to physics. The more involved you are, newer high energy physics. So there's symmetries. There's things that work in one side of the physics realm. Oh, it's tied to this other side, and it's like all more kind of global. And I feel like Panoptic, or a protocol like that is able to unify a lot of those, could be kind of the glue that links all of these applications.
Oh, that sounds very inspiring.
So, and you cannot do this in traditional finance. That's the key point. You need openness. You need to be able to talk to Uniswap. You need to talk to like the lending markets. All of this has to be kind of open. And that's where maybe to some extent I'm in there as well. You can change a lot of the financial system and make it work better for all actors because of that kind of initial idea that it's all open, it's all transparent.
Okay, sweet. I ended up talking way more about crypto with you than I expected. I thought we would talk like a mix of physics and crypto, but I just felt like it was so much more fun getting those perspectives out of you. And I guess I've spoken about physics on other episodes before. So yeah, it's super happy that we could have this conversation. Do you have any last words you wanted to add? Or?
No, I mean, thanks very much, Brad. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I met with him at the TLDR conference, and the way this works, and maybe some story, in crypto conferences, you sign up for the main event, but you stay in the hallways, you don't actually see the speakers, you go to a side event, which is on the other side of town. It's a different way than academia, where you actually show up and listen and ask questions. So that TLDR was very much academic. But then I met with Brad in the hallway, and we ended up chatting for like an hour, and I felt like this was like a good bridge between academia and how conferences are done in crypto. So yeah, I guess, yeah, it was great talking to you then, still great talking to you now. So yeah, thanks very much for the invitation.
Awesome. Thanks, Guillaume.